Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan Clark, the Oregon State Beavers beat writer for the Oregonian and Oregon Live. You are listening to the Beavers Beat, a short-form podcast keeping you in the loop on everything Oregon State sports. Fall camp is underway. The Beavers begin their second week of fall practices this week, coming off a first 4 days filled with some exciting moments and intriguing storylines. At the top of the list is the offense, remade under offensive coordinator Ryan Gunderson with the added element of Maalik Murphy at quarterback. Murphy's ability to make big throws downfield has been on display throughout the first week of fall camp, highlighted by a long touchdown pass to speedy wide receiver Zachary Card on Saturday. Gunderson spoke to the media last week about the need for OSU's offense to be more dynamic this season, creating big plays through the air with Murphy now leading the way at quarterback. Here's audio from that interview. Where do you see this offense, making the biggest strides this year over last? Just, big playability is one that people talk about.
Yeah, we need to create explosives. It's better to score in 2 plays than 13 plays. We had a lot of 13-play drives. The longer you have the ball, the longer you possess it, the more chances you have for some type of negative play, whether it be a fumble, an interception. We hope those things don't happen. A penalty, just anything that can be negative towards an offense, the longer you're out there, the higher the chances that happens. So we need to be more explosive. I think our receivers have gotten better than they were last year. I think we are better throwers than we were last year. So am I optimistic about that? Yes, I think we have. I think everywhere in the offense, talent-wise and understanding of what we're doing, we're better. So I think we can get that going.
Optimism is buzzing around OSU fall camp about the newfound balance of the offense. One of the most important pieces of the offense is senior running back Anthony Hankerson, who said he left some, quote, meat on the bone in 2024, despite rushing for over 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns, a touchdowns mark that ranks 6th in Oregon State history for a single season. A motivated Hankerson thinks that improvements in the passing game with Murphy at quarterback will help open things up for the run game and vice versa.
It helps tremendously. Just for the simple fact, everybody know we could run the ball, we gonna run the ball. So it's like you stack the box, you're gonna get beat over top. So it's like pick your poison. You either want to stop the run or you either start the pass, but you ain't gonna do both for sure.
The Beavers will face several big tests early in their 2025 schedule, and one could argue that their 6 toughest games are their first 6 of the season. That starts with California in the opener, who beat the Beavers 44-7 last season in Berkeley, which started a bit of a tailspin for Oregon State as it lost 6 of its final 7 games. That also includes road games at Texas Tech and Oregon this season, back-to-back in an early season stretch that seems to be pretty difficult for the Beavers. Head coach Trent Bray did say that OSU is embracing that challenge, though, of a difficult early schedule, and it does seem to open up from there for the Beavers. But what are the top 5 most challenging games for OSU this season? We've got you covered. Number 5, Appalachian State. While Houston appears on paper to be the tougher opponent than App State, the Beavers have the luxury of playing Houston at home while they have to go on the road to face Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina. It is possible that OSU could let a loss to Oregon in the prior week linger into the Houston game, especially considering there's just 6 days between those games. But it also could inspire a bounce-back win for the Beavers against a program in Houston that Oregon State feels like it's on the same level as. Speaking of experiencing turnover, as Houston has, Appalachian State is a team that used to be one of the top contenders in the Sun Belt, but in the era of NIL and transfer portals is no longer. This is a team that has seen a lot of turnover in its roster and is looking to pick up the pieces coming into 2025. Still, this is a really tough travel challenge for the Beavers. It's a 5-hour flight from Eugene to Charlotte if Oregon State ends up going that route. And then it's another 2 hours drive from Charlotte up to Boone. So depending on the route that the Beavers choose to take, this is a long way to go, and it's got trap game written all over it. Number 4. Fresno State. The Bulldogs are a future Pac-12 team hoping to chart a new direction for their program under coach Matt Entz. Their offense this season could be a feast or famine type situation, with presumed starter E.J. Warner at quarterback, bringing plenty of experience, but has a history of throwing interceptions at his previous stops. This will be a test for the Oregon State defense and a secondary seeking to prove itself early on in the season. And while the early season version of Oregon State compares favorably on paper to Fresno State, the Bulldogs will have one additional game under their belts compared with the Beavers by the time they travel to Corvallis. So the big test here is how quickly Maalik Murphy and company can get the OSU offense to gel. By game 2, if they're rolling, they could win that game against Fresno State. Number 3, versus California. So much for easing into the 2025 season as former Pac-12 foe California travels to Reser looking to make a statement in week 1. Obviously, last year losing 44-7 in Berkeley is a tough situation for the Beavers to have put themselves in, and one that sent their season into a complete tailspin. They obviously are looking for redemption this year and looking to rebound on a result that Trent Bray and company don't believe is representative of this program. And this is a different Cal team, having lost its starting quarterback and top running backs and receivers to the portal. But Brian Harsin is joining the staff, the former Boise State head coach, to lead the offense. And plenty of other players have come in from the transfer portal as well for Cal. On defense, the Bears were pretty successful in stopping the run, and so this will be a big test of Anthony Hankerson's pick your poison mantra when it comes to the OSU offense. If he and the running backs are limited by a strong run defense for Cal, Maalik Murphy will need to get things going quickly. And you talk about gelling early, no earlier than the opening game of the 2025 season. Number 2, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is one of 2 teams Oregon State will face this season, ranked in the preseason coaches poll, coming in at number 24. The Red Raiders spent big in the transfer portal to shore up a defense that allowed more than 460 yards per game last season, which was second worst in the nation behind Oklahoma State. But the Red Raiders have one of the most dynamic offenses in the country, led by upstart wide receiver Micah Hudson and veteran quarterback Baron Morton. The Red Raiders' motto is guns up, and the Beavers do not want to end up in a shootout in Lubbock. This is a team that can score in bunches and break off the type of big plays that Ryan Gunderson and the Beavers offense want to break off this year. This OSU secondary is led by several young and primarily unproven players, so this will be a bit of an uphill battle against these Texas Tech receivers. If the OSU defense can get pressure on the quarterback, that might help slow things down. Number 1, at Oregon. The Beavers will be up for this one. No matter the gap between these 2 programs, the rivalry between the Beavers and the Ducks is still fierce. But at the end of the day, the Ducks are still a powerhouse program. They have very few flaws on either side of the ball, and the biggest question is how young quarterback Dante Moore will live up to the hype after replacing Heisman finalist Dylan Gabriel, who's off to the NFL. Beavers fans would love nothing more than making the Ducks sweat 1 week before they have to travel on the road to Penn State for a whiteout game. But on the other side of the coin, it could get ugly fast for the Beavers if they're not careful against Oregon. If Maalik Murphy can come into Autzen Stadium and lead these Beavers to an upset over Oregon, given everything that the OSU program has gone through over the past 2 years with the dissolution of the Pac-12, they might build him a statue outside of Reser Stadium before the Houston game even kicks off 6 days later. For more in-depth stories and analysis ahead of Oregon State's 2025 football season, visit OregonLive.com/Beavers. We've got stories this week on Maalik Murphy and the OSU offense, and a feature coming on offensive lineman Tyler Volton. Thanks for joining us.